What's going on? And welcome back to another episode of Stereotherapy. I'm your host, Lisa.
And I'm Justine.
And this is the show that showcases the importance of music and mental health. Yes, you heard right. Justine is back. And for now, until hopefully a little bit, and after all my crazy ass move going on right now, it's been really, really hectic. Justine is finally on the mend where she can come back. So we wanted to do a couple episodes with just us talking because we missed doing that. And I'm glad Justine is back. It's been a while. So I think it was like October, I want to
Yep, I
say.
had done at the end of October was when
No,
I had my surgery.
we can count, Anthony Green, but that was just different than like this, like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, Justine is back, and we've talked about doing this episode for a while because we've done a woman's episode before. And if you're unfamiliar, I'll link that one. But I think there's always space and the need to talk about more women in music that have inspired us or inspiring so many right now, whether they're like, I guess, quote unquote, new or just people we haven't spoke about yet. I'm really glad we are revisiting this and updating it. And I would love to hear about the amazing women you're going to talk about, Justine. And I have a few new ones as well. But who is your first woman you would like to highlight?
First, I'm going to talk about Mitski. And when asked to describe her music, she said, people can put all of their feelings and their ugliness that doesn't have a place in the world, in their own lives, into her
Hmm.
music. And what makes her a little different as well is that during her live shows, she does choreography, and it's inspired by Butoh, which is a form of dance theater in post-war Japan. So, as opposed to it just being a show, it's a performance. She really likes to connect with her audience. She tends to she really tries to have people not use their phones
Hmm.
because she doesn't like to look out in the crowd and only see phones. So she really likes to be able to connect more with her audience on that level.
And that's such a problem. Like, I'm glad that
Hmm.
and I know some people like they give or take or they think a certain way about artists that do that. But I
Yeah.
think of all these artists, and listen, I'm guilty too. Like when I go, I
Oh,
want to
yeah,
get a photo or two. But I
definitely.
think back in the day or back at a time when you didn't and you got to live
Yeah.
in the moment. So I love that. I had no idea that. I mean, I think I've heard that she does that, but I love when artists do that.
Yeah, I mean, I really love her a lot. She's a couple years younger than me. And she has this weird, just like we're seeing a lot with other artists like Chapel, and gosh, there's somebody else that I saw recently having the same kind of talk about how the relationship with the fans is really uncomfortable and weird for them. And
Mhm.
she's one of those where like her fans can sometimes get really weird, like Taylor Swift fans when it comes to like worshiping. And she hates that. There was
Mhm.
I saw a video of one of her performances where somebody yelled out and called her mommy or mother. And
Mhm.
she's like, no, why are you calling me that? I'm not your mom. Like, this is really weird and uncomfortable. Like, please don't call me that. She tries to discourage that kind of fandom, which I think is also so important. Like, you know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
some people really cross that line. So I really love seeing artists really be clear that, like, do not put them on a pedestal kind of ideal. And I think that's super important, especially with today. She is another type of person that stands on her morals. She's very open about her beliefs, and she's been very loud about being pro therapy.
Mhm.
She talks about how good it is to go to therapy, why it's important. I love her a lot because her sound makes me think of like 90s women, like Fiona Apple, Alanis Morissette, which makes her just like stand out from your average female from today. Some of my favorite songs are Washing Machine Heart, Francis Forever, and Me and My Husband and Nobody.
Yeah, I feel like I know we've talked about Mitski before, but I think I
Yeah,
need to go back because I love that she's pro therapy and I love that she
yeah.
talks about it because you can be pro therapy and like not talk about it. I think a lot of people are very, I don't know, either people and again what they want to
I think people
share.
think that people will assume that they're pro therapy.
Hmm. I love
So,
that.
yeah.
I feel like I do. And anyone else, like go check out Mitski because I think it's a name that you don't hear often. You don't hear it tossed
Yeah.
around, at least
Oh,
unless
definitely.
if you're really into music, maybe. But if
And
you're
I
not one
think
of those people,
important to mention as well, like you have heard her. Her
hmm,
music
right?
has been all over TikTok. The song, oh my gosh, now I'm gonna blank on the words. there's a song that's been played a lot when it comes to like couples and stuff, and I cannot think of what it is right now because my brain is goo. But you've heard a lot. You've heard her multiple times. You've probably heard the beginning of Washing Machine Heart because it has a really like catchy beat at the beginning that people use in videos. But you more likely have heard her somewhere online. But I think it's also like she's another one of those that's really important to highlight because she is Japanese and you don't have a lot of, Asian Americans to be able to be in the scene anywhere. We need more to be highlighted. And she knows this and she has talked about that. That's I think one of the reasons why she started doing the choreography to bring in her heritage into it and to show that she's proud of it and she understands that she is important in that way. And I think that's really important to highlight as well.
Yeah. Oh wow. I can tell we're gonna have different ones this time, which is good. Like the ones that people don't. Well, I don't know. I probably have ones that people think of. So like my obviously, I don't know anyone that knows me. If you've been paying attention to our podcast page, I've been very excited because we've been finally getting some heavy music and musical guests on, and it's such an important part of my musical journey and my love of it. So it's been really excited. And by now you'll hear those episodes and you'll hear like my excitement, I guess, when I talk to these people. So I feel like it's only fitting for me to bring up Courtney LaPlante because I think in a world of heavy music, it is heavily dominated, male dominated. And I think it's one of those things that we are in a time where we would think in 2025, we are in this space of, yes, we have more women. But the conversation still is there where, oh, well, she's not good enough because she's a girl, or that band's not good enough, and this and that. And I love that instead of female fronted, she loves to call Spirit Box male reared. I love that she loves to say that. She's a male, their band is male reared instead of, oh, okay, we're female fronted. And I think it just changes the conversation and it puts it back in her pocket in owning that. And I think there's been so many interviews with Courtney talking about what she's experienced as a woman where she won't really go to the front as much. Now they're massive. That's not going to happen. But back in the day when they were playing smaller venues and maybe she would go to the front, but she was always afraid of who's going to maybe touch her a certain way. And it really, when any interview I hear her speak on it, it's like, wow, we really haven't changed. Because I guarantee if she were to ever jump down, and again, I know they're playing huge arenas and festivals, and that's not an option, but like if she ever did, there is that danger. And I love that she
Yeah.
brings that up, especially in the metal scene. And I think I love it because I think a lot of us, you see Courtney and she's beautiful and she's just has this massive presence, but then you hear her voice and her screams and everything. And I think she's even talked about being criticized in that and the way she sounds and the way they sing. And you even look at their latest record they just put out, Tsunami Sea, and it's like, it's different. And I think it's really changing the game of what metal is or hard. People are going to call all their hard rock, whatever you believe Spirit Box is. They are definitely changing the view, especially on this latest record, that there's more to the genre than just a dude getting up there and yelling, which for some that works. But I love that she's just been really open about the misogyny and always talking about that it still exists, it's still a thing. And I think that it only just shows how much work has to be done still. And that's Spirit Box. Spirit Box is huge. Like they are larger than life and dealing with the same hateful comments. You even see, Ronnie Radke having his piece about, Spirit Box when they dropped off of the tour. And, immediately it's talking about Courtney as a woman. Those are the attacks. It's not about their music. It's not that oh, you did this or you did that. And I think Courtney is just really important to have for so many women, especially if you are a fan of metal, to say like, hey, I can do this. I mean, Courtney has been in bands before. Like I wrestled a bear once. That was a band she was in. And now, obviously Spirit Box is on that bigger level, but I just think it's so important to have that representation of women in a male dominated space and just having someone say, hey, like I've been there too. Or if you're a young woman going to a show, or especially if it's a metal or hardcore show, I've been there. I'm still there in many aspects. And I also love that she's just open about her love of Beyonce because I love that you never wouldn't think every time I can sit down with someone that's in heavy music and I hear that they love like a pop singer, it's really
Mhm.
interesting to hear that because it's like when I hear your music, I would not think that. And then just to see and where they're headed is amazing. If you have not checked out their
Yeah.
record, Tsunami Sea. Go check it out. It is so good. And I think even if you're hearing this, you don't know Courtney LaPlante or you're not a fan of Spirit Box, I think that's a good record that it's there's heavy aspects, but then there's a lot of different sounds in there. So it's like if you hear this and you're like, I don't like metal, I don't like hard rock or whatever you want to call it, go listen to it because it's so good. And I think even someone that's not in love with heavy music will love it. And I think she's definitely inspired me a lot because I'm one of those people that, whether it's this podcast or I go to heavier shows and like heavier music, there's always that dude that has something to say. And then to look
Yeah.
at someone like her that like just commands that stage. And it's important for all these young fans that are getting, whether it's TikTok or whatever. I think it's really important. And I think she's amazing. And just go support Spirit Box. Go over there. Just go check it out. I think if everyone checked out their latest record, they would say, okay, I'm a Spirit Box fan. And I mean, you can't miss them. You really can't miss this band. They're
Yeah.
everywhere right now. And every podcast, I think. And again, that's bucket list to ever get that. I don't know if that'll ever happen. But that's my spiel of go check out Spirit Box. Courtney LaPlante is incredible and she's just amazing. For you to
Yeah.
yeah, like yeah, I know like I'm not sure, Justine, if you're like I don't know if you've ever listened to Spirit
I
Box.
haven't listened to them yet. I think I will like them from the little
Yeah.
clips that I've heard of them. I just haven't, you know how I am when it comes to like new music. It takes me a while before I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm ready to sit and listen to something new. But I'm sure I'll like them when I get down to being in the right headspace for it. But
Hmm.
she's definitely a very strong presence in the scene for sure.
Yeah.
And it would be goofy to not include her in this.
Yeah. And especially now, like I swear, everyone I talk to too, it's like I think heavy music is now bigger in the conversation than ever.
Mhm.
Where I think it's really cool to have bands like that maybe pull people into the genre and then they find, I don't know, like the heavier bands. I'm not gonna say Sleep Token because people are gonna kill me for that. I don't think Sleep Token is heavy, but I don't think they're heavy, and
Yeah.
people are gonna kill me for that. But I think like if you get into say her, maybe you would check out like a metal act, whether it was at Warped Tour or at a
Yeah.
festival. Maybe you'll stop and you'll be like, oh, okay, let me give this a chance. And I think bands like that are definitely pulling more kids into the genre. So I think
Yeah.
it's really, really great. And who's your next one?
So next I'm going to talk about Lord. And I think when it comes to Lord, everybody already just thinks Royals and that's it.
Hmm.
And probably South Park, which by the way, she thought was funny. And she also thought it was cute and felt like it was appreciative that there was a message of trans acceptance with that episode.
Hmm.
I think everybody probably would assume that if you're on South Park for a goofy bit that like you're gonna be offended, and that's not always the case. Her songwriting is just so unique because she uses gosh, I'm probably gonna say this wrong because I'm terrible at pronunciation, but synthesthesia. I don't know how to say it, but
I
that's
don't.
when you can see colors for sounds and emotions, so like she can physically see colors that are in things that people cannot see otherwise. So certain music gives a color in her brain, certain emotions give her a certain color that we don't see. It's only if you have this. And somebody else that has this same condition is Phineas,
Oh.
Billie Eilish's brother, which I also think is super unique. I think it makes sense if
Hmm.
you think about it. And that's why what helps give her a different way of being able to tap into things that others can't with their sound. And it makes her songs more poetic than it does just make them regular songs, you
Hmm.
know? I love her because each album is kind of a different human experience. So for her first album, it was like teen angst. And then the next one was like depression in relationships as you're getting into adulthood. And then the last one is supposed to be kind of like when you kind of find yourself and you kind of are experimenting more so with who you actually are. And I love that because it's like, even though each album kind of has a different theme and it feels almost completely different. For instance, her last album, Solar Power, was really more like, especially if I had to give it a color, if I had to give you a color for what the album felt like, it was like yellow because it's really bright and like very much in the name. It makes you feel like summer and how that all feels around that time of year. Whereas, say, Melancholia was like dark and sad.
Hmm.
So like harsh differences in the albums, but like you still feel very connected to it because it's just like a very human experience what her music is. So some of my favorite songs are like Mood Ring, Solar Power, Liability. That song alone, Liability, if you are somebody who struggles with mental health and feeling like you aren't worth a relationship. Like that feeling of like, I feel like I don't deserve a relationship or I'm not worth the time, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, that's the song. It's sad, but you're gonna feel it. The Louvre, I've talked about Green Light before on the podcast and how that song has been to me. Supercut, and then Buzzcut season. And Buzzcut season was actually covered by Thrice at one time.
Yeah, Dustin Kensrue did such a good
Mhm.
job with that.
Yeah, and that's a good one. But yeah, I've loved her for a long time. I finally got to see her when she had the Solar Power tour, and it was beautiful. It was great to see her in person and experience that. She's another one of those where it's like their concerts are more than just a concert.
Hmm.
It's like an experience, and you can just tell when she sings that she does tap into it differently because she is able to see colors that people don't see. It's You can tell when she's singing, and when you see it, it's just like it's goosebumps. I had goosebumps like that whole show.
Oh, yeah. And again, I have like anyone listening to our previous episode where we talked about Lord. The only thing, I mean, I won't go too much into it. It's just one of those case scenarios where an ex loved Lord and I can't get past that and put Lord on because of how that felt, which is another real thing. But I have so much
Yeah,
respect for Lord. I know what she's done for you and so many others. And I think she's always lost in the conversation of importance because we have other bigger pop stars or bigger
yeah.
people that maybe, again, I think she's very beautiful, but I think when they look at the pop star, I don't think she fits that mold.
I know
Not this,
she's one of
and
those people that can be, I think, off-putting to others.
hmm.
She's another one of those where like the way she talks and like interviews and stuff, like people are like, she's a little different.
Right. And I
I don't
think
like her,
yeah,
you know?
which is shitty, but it's how the
Yeah.
industry is, sadly. And I think, yeah, go check out Lord. I'll have links, even though I think everybody knows who Lord is. But and then I'm gonna pivot, obviously. I think everybody, if you hear the choices I'm making, it's you can tell what zone I'm in. But I had to go Cat Moss of Scowl. If you don't know who Scowl is, again, if you're into heavier music, specifically hardcore, you've heard of Scowl. Maybe you saw them open up for Limp Bizkit. Maybe that was your entry to Scowl. I know for me, that's what's really honestly what made me get into them in the beginning was obviously I'm a big new metal Limp Bizkit fan. So which I know some people would think whatever, but whatever. That band
But
played
I
a role in my
mean,
life.
Gen Z's getting
Um,
really into them,
yeah.
so
So they're coming
they're
back,
in
but
right now.
I remember seeing like photos and videos about this band Scoville and immediately obviously seeing Kat's hair. And again, a lot of people, oh, another colored hair, but let's stop that conversation because someone else is coming up that we're going to talk about that deals with that. But I think it was really cool for me to see someone like that and also not even we're not even talking about her hair, but I think something that Kat brings and I think Skyla brings to the hardcore scene is there's a lot of florals. There's a lot of brightness to a hardcore band. And I think when we think of hardcore, you don't think of that. You don't think someone in a skirt and florals, and even in any artwork, you don't think about that. It's usually some tough guy, which I'm glad we're getting away from that kind of hardcore. I've always been a hardcore fan, but for me, it's great to like get us away from that kind of tough guy mentality of hardcore where they're just stomping around and I think that's what a lot of people think it is. And I love that a band like Skywell is kind of showing like, hey, no, it's not. And I mean, even bands like Turnstile, Turnstile, but hey, they have a woman in the band now who's killing it, which I love to see that. But I think that with Scowl, the things for me that I love to see it is again, Kat has that representation for so many other girls that maybe are starting to get into hardcore and realize, hey, I have a place because Kat kind of looks like me. She resembles me and she represents what I am. And a very male-dominated scene crowd. And I've heard from people that when they go see a band like Scowl, they feel represented and they feel safe because it's someone like Kat up there. And the whole band of Scowl up there. And I think it matters. And I love to see it because as someone like myself, that I've never really looked the part of someone that loves hardcore music. Yes, I have tattoos, but it stops there. Some of my style tends to be bright, and things like that. And when you go to these places and you are that girl, and maybe you have a flower in your hair, maybe you are just wearing a skirt or you want to wear what you want to wear, I think it's really important to have that and have that safety because I know what it's like to walk into those places and kind of be that odd man out where they're like, oh, you don't know this band or you don't know this music, which I think is always so funny. So I love someone like Kat. I wish I had someone like that when I was younger, when I was going into those spaces, because it was very male dominated. And I love to see the ladies kind of kicking ass, much like Courtney. And I do love too that Cats, they've always been big on getting rid of the whole industry plant thing. A lot of times people always say they're an industry plant. They have to be an industry plant. And I think Scowell's always really handled it well and been like, yeah, we're not an industry plant. We worked for this. There's no, it's like everybody loves to say that on TikTok or social media, you're an industry plant. And I love
Yeah.
that they're not. They're not,
Yeah.
obviously, and that they kind of have a funny way to always come back on someone saying that. It's, and kind of just like, okay, whatever, we're gonna do our thing. I mean, they're on a current big tour with Movements and Citizen, and I know that a lot of people are like, who is this band? And I love that they're catching on, and I think that it's also one of those things that I love that Kat is someone also that speaks on social issues. She is very vocal about that. And I think, especially when we talk about scenes like hardcore, they should be, and we're rooted in everybody is equal, equality, acceptance. And I think that a lot of times, sometimes it's gotten lost. And I do see some people in my own hardcore community back home that have shifted to a different way. And I love that she constantly kind of brings it back to what is rooted in hardcore, what it's about. And I think that fun thing for me and the thing I love the most about Scrabble is they have this record coming out. Who was it? What day is today? Friday. We Are All Angels. So by the time this comes out, this record is going to be out. But I'm really excited because if you listen to like their song Special they have out, I think if you're hearing this and you're like, I don't like hardcore, I don't like this, go listen to their latest single Special. You can really hear what they're bringing to the genre. And it's not necessarily the hardcore you may think of. Maybe you are thinking about that guy that's stomping around or whatever. It's really cool. And I love that they're bringing different genres into what Scowl is and what it represents. And I think that, yeah, people like Kat and Courtney are just really important in these male dominated roles. And I love Scowl. I'm so jealous because they played by me at Crossroads, which is super tiny. It was kind of hush hush because it was like just like a one-off show because they were like in their routing going to Philly. Kicking myself because I would have loved to experience that. It looked amazing, fantastic, and Kat is just she's just wonderful. And I highly recommend anyone check out Scowl because like I think in a year from now, even though I do think they're really, really big, they're going to be even bigger with this record.
Yeah. I haven't listened to them yet, but I have heard you talk a lot about them, and I'm sure I'm gonna like them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you would definitely. And I think like you would definitely be one of those people that is a cat fan. For sure.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
who she's about and
Combining hardcore with like flowers, right up my alley. I love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I love that they bring the brightness because again, I think like you don't expect it. And it's almost like everything people talk about, like about, oh, that's a poser, that's that. I think it's really important to have that and show that. And like we need to stop that language in 2025. Like just stop. It's not what you wear. Like it's not
Yeah.
about that and it shouldn't be
And
about
the
that.
thing is that people constantly try to connect is that you can be in a hardcore scene while being really feminine.
And that's what I love.
And
Exactly.
I love that kind of connection. It's like with Riot Girl bands back in the 90s was wearing the
Hmm.
baby doll dresses. Well, singing real loud and being just like the guys' energy, but they look girly. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the number one thing that I think I could relate to. I was never that person. I was never gonna look apart. I was like, yes, I like this music. And then again, seeing someone like Kat up there in those baby doll dresses, she's doing
Hmm.
all that, and she's just being herself. And I mean, some people like that does rub the wrong way, but it's like if that really bothers you that much, someone being authentic, then you've got bigger issues. But
Oh
that's a
yeah.
whole nother podcast to talk about men and misogyny and things like that. But who's your next one?
So next I want to talk about Nemesis. And she first came on my radar after she had a hauntingly just beautiful a cappella version of Lord's Song Team, which was shared a lot with the resilience of the Palestinians. And that's what really got her on the radar of me and so many others, is just hearing that song with her beautiful voice. And Nemesis is Palestinian and was dropped from her label just 5 days after October 7th for being Palestinian and for wearing a hijab and believing and standing with her people. And she has gone through so many hoops for who she is and standing with her morals and refusing to change in order to reach stardom. And it's been really beautiful to see her grow through all of this and is finally getting seen for the talent that she is. They just had the Juno Awards up in Canada, which is an award show done in Canada because she's
Mm-hmm.
actually Canadian, and she just won Breakthrough Artist of 2025 and Best Alternative Album. And it was just amazing to see that happen for her. Stick of Gum is probably one of my favorites of just of the past year. And even our girl Haley Williams mentioned
Mm-hmm.
her in a Instagram story with that song. And as I would be and anybody else would be, she was totally starstruck by that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Colored Concrete is a really beautiful song about that. Just the visuals of that music video is beautiful. All her music videos are really well done, and I love it. So if you were to at least watch like her music videos
Mm-hmm.
as well, wonderful. And then she has the song "What If I Took It Off for You," which is about people's attitude towards women who wear the hijab,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just beautifully done. And I think she's just so great for just so many things. Like, if you're going to go and be famous, stick to who you are. Don't change yourself just because that's what you think the public eye or the record labels are going to want. And if you stick to who you are and you're talented, you're going to start seeing the fruits of your labor. And she is one of those people that just stick to what you know and who you are, and you're still going to get somewhere. And I think it's really beautiful, a beautiful story, and just she's a wonderful talent. And I'm so excited to see where she goes from now on.
Yeah, I was trying to look her. I was like, let me see if I know. And again, like I do remember Haley Williams posting
Hmm.
that, and I think it's really important to her to highlight artists like that too, and
Yeah.
then also highlight artists that a lot of the record labels may be almost scared to back.
Hmm.
Which is crazy to think you'd be scared to back someone that's has great ideals and morals about them.
Yeah. I
But I
mean,
think it's the
wild.
industry. They're afraid to
Hmm.
take that risk on someone. So I love that like she's definitely want to check her out because I've
Yeah.
never heard
And she is,
anything.
before that had happened, before her label dropped her, they were pinning her to be the next amazing, like, female singer.
Hmm.
They thought she was en route to be something like probably like where Chapel is now. And then October 7th happened, and they're just like, yep, you're out. And it's so upsetting to see that people are just afraid to let people be who they are, you know? But I think that she's going to continue to rise and make more beautiful music and continue on this path. And it's been really beautiful to see how much people online had made sure to help her as well,
Hmm.
because everybody saw all the hoops that she had been going through, and we all kind of online were trying to help her the best we could by showing her music, using her music and backgrounds to help try to amplify her even more. And it was a beautiful thing to see, you know, people coming together to try to help her for having that happen to her, which should not have happened.
I think you would hope we would make some progress in that, but that's another conversation for
That's
another
another
day
conversation.
about
Yeah.
that and how people are with people, especially when they speak up about things that are very important. And I think it's only fitting that you brought up Nemesis, and I'm
Hmm.
going to obviously bring up. I mean, we have to. I think this is a must. Haley Williams. So you mentioned her. Obviously, she
Yep.
shared Nemesis. So I think it's really fitting to we have to bring up Haley Williams because I think we're not alone. That if you ask any other for women, young girls, Hayley Williams is at the top of the list for them. And it's understandably like so, like I get it. Like even me, I always think back to when I did Fueled by Ramen and I got to promo and they handed me, oh, Paramore, All We Know Is Falling. And me just seeing this girl and thinking, oh, wow, we're similar age and this is really cool that I get to do this. And then they went off to be like, huge in what they are today. And I think back then, I love what Hayley Williams kind of represented because she was on Warped Tour. She was on all these tours with men. And I love that now that she's older and she's able to look back on that, she always brings up the misogyny in the scene, and
Yeah.
especially some of your favorite bands that were like that with
Yep.
her. And I almost feel like now she almost has the power to do that. And she feels like she's gained that
Yeah.
power back that maybe she didn't have. And I love that, like, at when we were young, when they played, and she said the scene was not a safe place for them. It was not a safe place for
Hmm.
women. They were not. Now they're coming back to these festivals of, wow, headliner, must see Paramore, where it
Hmm.
wasn't like that back then. And they would be in that. And I think for me, the number one thing and why I want to highlight Haley is I know I'm not alone in this too, is hearing Haley talk about relationships and the relationship she had gotten out of. I think it's important to have women when they're comfortable and especially in music to be open about these relationships that a lot of us in normal, I hate saying normal life, but normal life have,
Hmm.
and we go through it. And to see somebody on a stage and on a platform like Hayley Williams saying, hey, I was with someone narcissistic, there was infidelity, there
Hmm.
was a lot of lack of self-worth, and then she goes into, and obviously a record we're going to talk about, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about After Laughter. But I think for me and hearing her be so open about what came along with that relationship and the depression and the anxiety and her mental health. And I always credit to when I went through a really, really dark time and hearing her talk about then she went to therapy and she is someone that had contemplated so many things during her mental health being her lowest. And I think you heard it a lot of it in her solo work, which is why I really hate when mostly dudes want to say that the new Paramore, this is why the latest Paramore is her solo work. It's just Hayley Williams solo. If you took a listen to her solo records and actually listened to it, you know it's absolutely not true. And this is why it's an incredible
Hmm.
record. I'm going to vouch for that right now. But I think
Yeah.
that to have someone like that and me hearing that wow, as cliche as it sounds to say like, oh, my favorite singer or one of my favorite artists can get through this, I can too. But when I was having a lot of those thoughts and hearing a record like After Laughter, I
Yeah.
think it was really an important thing to put mental health at the forefront and her mental health. And although all of us listening have a different take in mental health, it's not like, oh, this is what her lyrics mean. This is what it means. But I think when we hear it and like I hear Rose Colored Boy, I hear Fake Happy, and every time I'm going through something, I think of Fake Happy.
Hmm.
And I think of that, and I think she's just someone that represents so much for women and a very male-dominated scene,
Hmm.
but also just to show how far she's come. Now she's in a wonderful relationship,
Love
and
to.
she's
Hmm.
on the other side. She's doing so many cool things, and I love that she loves to really lift those artists that are not as big,
Yeah.
especially when we were
She
young.
always does.
I know
Hmm.
Meet Me at the Altar. She wrote a letter saying, kind of welcoming them and passing the torch. And I think it's really important to have that because I know that they were big fans of her and everyone that I've ever talked to that loves Haley, we all have a similar story. So I
Yeah.
don't think you can have a women's
Oh,
episode without talking about Haley
we
Williams.
would have to.
She is
Hmm.
so important. I know a lot of the dudes want to just say, oh, she's so hot. And yes, she is very beautiful.
Like, oh,
I am
yeah,
with
but
you.
that's not her only thing.
There is more to her. And yeah, Paramore forever. And
Yeah,
I love her so much. But I know you share that same sentiment with
I do.
Haley as well.
I know. She's just one of those where, especially us as millennials, when we were seeing really only guys, she was like the main girl that was ever singing. And
Yeah.
she knows that and she uses that as reasons to try to help others. And I think that's
Mhm.
so important because I don't think that happens with most people that end up getting so much fame like she has gotten. And she's always stayed true to that. She is always sticking up for random things to advocate for. And which is another thing that like we don't see enough of. She's strong in her conviction. She will stand up for what she needs to. And she is, and I love this because, sometimes you'll see this with other female artists. Well, they'll be talking to other female artists, but Haley's always been different. It's always come off very genuine that she really tries her best to help platform other females in the music industry because
Mhm.
it doesn't even have to be somebody in like the emo scene. It will be, I've seen her really uplift Doechii, and Doechii,
Mhm.
she even talked about like Cindy Paramore in some of her lyrics.
Even SZA
And
too. SZA's another one too.
Mhm. And so, like, she is not going to pigeonhole herself to uplift people in her actual scene. She's going to do it for anybody that's female who's up and coming. And I think that's super important as well because, like, just like all of us, like, she's a person, she's going to listen to more than one type of music, you
Oh, and
know?
you see it, and I think
Oh,
that's why
yeah.
people, and
I
even
think you hear
recently.
it too, though, that, like, just in her music itself, you know?
Well, you even look at This Is Why.
Yeah.
When she said there was a at the drive-in, there's an at the drive-in. Not only is there an at the drive-in reference, but
Hmm.
there's also that inspiration, and people are like, "What?" Or like when she talks about like one of her favorite bands, Me Without You, which
Hmm.
again, people are like, "What?" Who, and again, which incredible band. That's another day.
Yeah,
But like,
wonderful. Yeah.
I think that that's really cool because like we recently saw her on stage with Deftones and people are like, "What?" And
Yeah.
first of all, that's already happened like in 2010 or 11. And
Yeah.
then now to see them like reunite and do it again. Yeah, she's always been open about that in different genres. And that's why I think again, you hear it in their music. It's not just
Hmm.
I know everybody thinks differently about This Is Why, but I think that's really cool to hear the different pullings from different
Yeah.
people, and you actually hear it in oh my gosh. What's that song? Don't go crying to your mama because you're on your own in the real world.
That's Ain't It Fun?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So
Mhm.
Ain't It Fun?
Yeah.
She's a choir
Yeah.
singing in that. And I don't know if it's from a Tennessee or somewhere, Southern Baptist choir, I want to say. And again, she's pulling from her roots. She's
Yeah.
pulling from that where she could have had anybody on that, but she chose to go
Hmm.
that route. So she's yeah, Haley Williams forever.
I know
Just
it's like another one of those things where it's like, even though she's like really, really known, like you can still tell that she's still that same girl from Franklin, Tennessee.
mm-hmm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you don't see that with a lot of people that get up and famous. Like you can still see her being very genuine and down to earth, and you don't get that with a lot of people.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
And I think that yeah, that's another reason. Well, you just have to love. She left like the LA and left all that
Mhm.
area to get back to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And I know you have a couple extra ones you wanted to kind of
I have
slide
one
in.
extra
Okay.
to sneak in there, just one.
Yeah.
I had to be able to give a shout out to a band that's been on my radar for a hot minute, and I've talked about them before with Lisa. Anyways, I don't think I even mentioned them on the show, but there is a band called I might pronounce it wrong because I'm terrible. Malavora. It's a female-fronted new metal band, and they're very like to me very reminiscent of new metal bands that like we grew up with as millennials. Like it's given like Kitty and like maybe a little bit of Linkin Park. And the singer Jess writes songs about being autistic and being disabled. She literally is doing what someone like me who is grieving constantly about what I'm not able to do anymore as somebody who's chronically ill, and I have to use mobility aids now for pretty much any kind of exertion. And I feel like I can't do anything that I would have dreamt of, originally. And she's doing it. She's out there. She is singing. She'll use a cane, and like she's still out there being able to be as powerful and awesome with her music and with the band, and proving that like even though you're disabled, you can still do what you love. And I think that's super like amazing to highlight. You should definitely check out their songs Disorder, Imposter, and Skin. They have probably like 10 songs or so on Spotify that you can listen to. But yeah, I've been keeping an eye on them for a while. Really enjoy what they're doing. Their sound is great. The energy she brings in her singing and in her performances are just awesome. So yeah, definitely make sure you check them out, Malavora. And yeah, like check out their TikToks even just to see a visual of their performances as well. Like they're awesome.
Yeah, I'm like looking them up and I'm like, I was adding them to like my
Yeah.
Spotify.
Oh yeah.
Um,
You'll love them.
yeah, I'm like, I need to check this out.
I would love to get them on the pod
Oh,
because just like as some again, speaking as somebody else who's also disabled, like seeing somebody who looks like me and
mhm.
singing about things that I deal with, like that's awesome. We don't see a lot of people that are disabled in positions like this and being good at it and being awesome. So I would love to be able to talk to her.
No, absolutely. Like I think yeah, I think that's a theme with like the women we're talking about today. All of them have represented whether other people or us or other people and ourselves, I think they've all represented it like you just said, like seeing someone up there with something you deal with. And I
Yeah.
think that power, and I think all these women that we talked about today have that. And I think whether it's someone big like Paramore that everybody
Mhm.
knows and loves, or even Courtney of Spirit Box, or it's, someone like Nemesis that maybe they
Mhm.
don't know. I think we all look to these women because their representation and what it matters and it's so important. And I think that's why it was so important to highlight another women's episode. And there's
Yeah.
so many women and there's so many more. Like I could think of it again, another one like Not Enough Space. Those two girls killing it. I love what they're doing. They are bucket list for me too. And I think that it's really cool to see women kind of taking over, whether it's a genre or just taking up the space that we should all take up. So, yeah, and if anyone listening has a woman or women that you want to highlight, let us
Yeah.
know because obviously there's so many. We could have been
We would
here
love to
forever.
know
Like there's
more.
so many,
Yeah.
and someone that's on our radar
It
because
could be
well,
somebody we know. We just never even thought about
yeah,
talking about them. Like we would
yeah.
love to hear it.
Absolutely. Like that's like yeah, send them our way and tell them about the podcast because that helps because
Yeah.
like even Justine said, "Oh, I would love to get them on." Yeah, it's harder than people think. It's a lot
Yeah.
harder, so
I
it'd
know.
be
It's
really
like
cool.
even if it's somebody smaller, sometimes it's just hard to get a hold of. Like,
Yeah, it's tough.
you
So
know,
I think I would love to do that while I'm very proud and always proud of the amount of men that I've been able to have on here.
we would love more women.
I would love to also
We would really
represent the
love to have more
ladies. I
women.
want to
Yeah.
represent the ladies too.
Yeah.
But so yeah, and obviously like new episodes every Tuesday. We may be doing episodes every other week. I don't know because I'm in the middle of a move. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what's going on. But we're gonna figure that out. But there will be
Yeah.
episodes popping in and all of that. And as always, if you are liking what you are hearing, remember to follow our show so whether this conversation or a conversation with a guest, you don't miss it, as well as a positive rating and review. I would love if anyone listening to this, if this is your first time listening or your 10th, I mean, you have not reviewed, just go hit that star. It really helps boost our show and helps us get those guests that maybe we would like to get or people to find us. It takes 2 seconds and it doesn't do anything. And subscribing doesn't mean you're bombarded with a bunch of stuff. So do that, and that would be really, really awesome. And yeah, we will see you guys next time. All right, bye guys.
Bye.